Got it.
Great. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for a conversation about Trellis for Tomorrow and our gardens throughout the community and the communities that we work with. We're really thrilled to have everyone with us tonight or joining us post facto, ex post facto on the YouTube channel or wherever else you're learning about what we're doing in the community. We just want to say thank you for your interest and for your partnership or your future partnership with us. We're really thrilled to have you. So welcome everybody. Again, my name is David Ryle and I'm with Trellis for Tomorrow. And I'm gonna share my screen. We're gonna get into our presentation for the evening. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'll start sharing my screen and we'll start from the top. Almost there. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So the title of this very brief presentation is Cultivating Community through Youth Leadership, Sustainable Agriculture, and Environmental Stewardship. This is one of our gardens, actually in Park Spring Apartments in Spring City. It's one of the gardens that we're going to talk briefly about tonight. This garden was reestablished 2 years ago by a group of teenagers that converted it from an enclosure of a jungle of weeds into a highly productive garden that fed quite a few people in the last 3 years, which is one of the gems of our Youth Seed Enterprise program. A little bit about Trellis for Tomorrow. Trellis for Tomorrow is an almost 20-year-old nonprofit organization based in Phoenixville. We use innovative, sustainable food and environmental stewardship programs to empower youth and adults to co-create communities in which they feel connected, have a sense of purpose, and have access to the resources that they need to be healthy. We do this through raised bed gardens and programs for companies, communities, businesses, and community organizations, as well as youth programs that offer leadership development, social and emotional learning, and career building skills, as well as unique learning opportunities in new settings like preserves and parks, where a lot of young people don't ordinarily get a chance to engage with nature in a meaningful way. And through all of this, we're kind of creating pathways to creating a healthy and sustainable community for our world from the ground up. That's a little bit about Trellis for Tomorrow. You can learn more by visiting us at trellisfortomorrow.org, where there's a lot more information about what we do and where we're doing it. But what we're mostly talking about tonight is a program called Youth Seed Enterprise, which creates, establishes, and maintains organic gardens in communities that are struggling with food access or with food security issues. And the young people, who are mostly 13 to 18 years old, help us to establish these gardens, usually in their own communities, where they manage those gardens. They also get experiences to sort of see new things. This is actually them visiting Springton Manor Farm, which is in part tended by the Chester County Food Bank. It's an incredible farm there, and these are the goats that are tended there, and our kids had a chance to visit, which was really wonderful. But most of the time, the kids are in gardens that they are working to establish or maintain. The purpose of this is not just to teach them valuable work skills and help them develop new connections with each other in their world. It's also very much about growing organic produce. And the produce that they grow grows in waves, which are introduced into their community. So the model of this program, the Youth Seed Enterprise program, really hinges on that word enterprise. These young people are not just learning how to get in nature and take care of the spaces around them or how to grow organic food. They're also creating enterprises to engage with their neighbors, to engage with the world. So they're creating dignified exchange enterprises where that food is getting in the front doors of people that they live around, and they're learning business skills. And those business models are usually a pay what you will type business. So the young people come up with an enterprise to get the food out of the garden and into front doors. And in the process, they learn a host of skills that are going to be valuable to them beyond school and in their careers, which is a major aspect of what we're trying to do in this program. These particular kids are in our Fairview Village garden, which we got into last year in partnership with the Chester County Food Bank, who is also represented on this call. We love this garden. The kids worked really hard to dramatically expand that garden. And I believe that garden alone, the kids grew over 2,000 pounds of produce last year, which got into the surrounding community through enterprises that they created. And here you can see they've got some produce growing, which they were very proud of. This again is a photo of some of our youth participants from Park Spring Apartments in Spring City. And similarly, we have 3 other garden sites this year in 2021 that are going to be producing even more produce than we did last year. Ultimately, though, our vision for where these gardens are headed is not just merely a platform for us to deliver youth programming to those communities. As great as that program is, and as exciting as it has been for us to watch it grow and grow, we are really interested ultimately in these gardens becoming a community asset, a space that the community feels is actually theirs, for them to take care of, for them to feel like they have a stake and they're vested in, to reforge that connection with nature and where their food comes from, and really take the power back from a food system that is not serving our community the way that it could or should. So ultimately, we don't want to just deliver a youth program year over year in these spaces, but over the course of time, our vision is that these communities would become a community asset and a community-owned space where not just youth, but adults that live in and around these communities feel they have a vested interest in where their food comes from and how it's grown. Part of this is we have developed a youth leadership track that envisions these young people growing into positions of leadership and ownership of these spaces, even over the course of a few short years, where they really understand how to manage these spaces and enter into positive relationships with their own communities to become advocates and stakeholders for how these gardens are managed and run and what happens with the produce that's grown there. So we're very excited about where these gardens are going. This is another image of one of our gardens. Some of them are these framed raised beds, but oftentimes you'll see them with mounded beds. But at the end of the day, all of our gardens are highly productive and all organic, which we feel like is important for the long-term sustainability of our communities. Again, we have seen everywhere we put these gardens in, they become sort of like a gathering place for people to come together, to meet each other, to ask questions about where their food comes from and why that's important. And it often leads to new connections being made on multiple fronts, which has always been extremely exciting for us as we've been doing this work. The Youth Seed Enterprise program started just four years ago, and over that short time, it has doubled in size every year, and now we're getting approached by communities looking to see this started in their own community. And oftentimes it's really just about the youth program, but in the long term, again, our vision is to see a significant shift in the conversation around how our community feeds itself and how it leads itself, which is very much what this Youth Seed Enterprise program is about. There are other programs, though, that we're running. One most notably is our environmental stewardship program, which introduces youth to connections with the greater world around them and why that connection is so important. These kids pictured here are in our Park Spring Apartments cohort, and despite the appearances of them being in some sort of preserve, this is actually the woods surrounding their apartment complex, which presented us with ample opportunities to talk about invasive species and the benefits of having access to nature, how we can care for it, how we can have a positive relationship with it. And some of those kids went on to participate in our youth environmental stewardship program last fall, where they were managing spaces in preserve not far from Spring City. This is a very impactful program. Most of them have a good time. This guy right here seems kind of like he's had kind of a rough day, but most of them really do enjoy their time together, not just because of the connection it forms with nature in the form of plants and trees, and obviously with each other and themselves, but also with some of the wildlife that's around them. Some of our young people sort of had some incredible discoveries of insects and wildlife that really impacted them for their lives. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Grace Hardy to talk a little bit about where our partnerships currently are.
Yeah, thank you, David. So we currently have several partnerships for our youth gardens, and including one new one this year. So we have a youth garden at Rolling Hills Apartments that was established last year in Pottsgrove. That is a really beautiful, large garden and really productive. So we're really excited about that one. Park Springs apartment in Spring City, which was the intro photo slide. That was that garden. The Fairview Village Garden in Phoenixville, which is in collaboration with the Chester County Food Bank. Hobart's Run Garden, which is sort of a partnership with the Hill School in Pottstown. And then just a couple blocks away from that, we have a new garden that will be working with the Mosaic Community Land Trust just a couple blocks away, also in Pottstown. So that's where our youth gardens are currently located. Like David said, we're sort of always getting more offers of people wanting us to expand, so that will be happening, but that's what's planned for 2021. And this year we are already running some youth program. We're running a springboard leadership program for returning youth, but we have a lot more programming coming up. This Saturday, March 27th, is actually the first day of our youth environmental stewardship program, and that will meet on Saturdays in the spring. And then our 8-week summer program, which is where the majority of our growing produce and distribution and establishing the enterprises happens. That will be starting in June for teens ages 13 through 18, mostly centered in those communities. Obviously, during COVID, we can't provide transportation. That used to be part of our programming, but so anybody within those communities that is interested, we would love to have you ask questions or apply. And then some of the other things that are coming up besides our youth programming, we have a lot of ideas about some potential community events that we could get engagement in the garden. And some of our ideas include seedling giveaways, cooking competitions, recipe exchanges, sharing garden knowledge, like the opportunity for folks to come by the garden and learn some garden skills and share some garden skills, community cookouts, as well as opportunities for community members to mentor some of our youth with any sort of skills, interests, talents you may have. So those are some of our ideas. I'm going to put in the chat a link to a survey that we are also distributing throughout the communities that asks several questions about sort of your relationship with the gardens, but it includes a question about like, what are some potential events that you might like to see in the gardens? Because we're really excited about increasing our gardens outside of just a youth garden to being really inclusive of the whole community. And we want to make sure that folks that are part of those communities have a say in what those gardens look like.
And I would just jump in here to say a couple things. One, if you're watching this recording on our YouTube channel, the link to the survey is just underneath this video in the video description. So you can find the link there, where you can also find a link to our website as well as our contact information if you're interested in learning more or signing up your youth for participating in any of our programs or for anything else. I would also just say that most of these programs we are establishing in communities where a lot of young people live, and that is where most of our youth participants are coming from, are the communities where we're establishing these gardens in partnership with those communities. But we do have multiple instances of youth being brought in by their parents, driven in for engagement in these programs, and they found that to be extremely rewarding. So I wouldn't rule it out. If you don't live in the communities listed, that doesn't mean that you're young, that you or a young person that you know can't participate in the program. That happens a lot of the time, but most of the youth that are participating are living either in those communities or very nearby that they can get to by walking or riding their bikes or whatever, which we feel like is a very significant part of our program. Like the change has to come from our communities. It can't be brought in too much from the outside. And to that end, I would just add to what Grace just mentioned, that a lot of what we're finding, these potential engagement ideas, are actually not coming just from us. We've been engaging with the communities that we're working with and serving for the last several months, asking lots of questions for their input on what we're doing and what they want to see happen with these gardens. And that's going to be a major theme. That's the purpose of this call tonight. That's the purpose of this video recording on our YouTube channel. We are very interested in having a larger dialogue with communities that we partner with, that this can transcend beyond just youth programming to something that's more substantial about how does our community feed itself? How does our community access food, and what can we do to change the dialogue around our food system and, you know, some of these bigger questions. And I can tell you for certain, when the kids are not doing this garden maintenance, they're engaging in a very dynamic, powerful, impactful curriculum that's causing them to not just ask questions about these systems that affect their lives, but they're learning how to engage meaningfully to have some change in the world around them. So if you have some ideas, or you would like to give us your input to what we should be doing with these spaces, please click on that link to the survey, either in chat or below this video, so that we can hear from you, because your input really matters. We feel like every person's voice matters when it comes to the food that we're eating and where it comes from. Everybody's got to eat. The table is where we eat, and food is how we get them to the table, and we want to hear your voice. So your input really matters in what we're doing. We're going to end this presentation with just this slide with some contact information for how you can get a hold of us at Trellis for Tomorrow. I'm going to leave this on the screen just for a moment. Again, my name is David Ryle. I'm joined here tonight by Grace Hardy. Not present is Bob Steininger, who is the program director for our Youth Environmental Stewardship Program. So if you're interested in that, you might think about reaching out to him. And then Jennifer Anderson is our executive director. She's incredible and incredibly, she's just incredible. She just couldn't be here tonight, but she would be if she could. And at that, I'm going to stop sharing. And I want to take a moment just to share with you, kind of do a little bit of an introduction around the room, that we do have someone joining us from, or two people joining us from the Chester County Food Bank. Wendy Gaynor is the Director of Food Security Initiatives at the Chester County Food Bank, and happens to be married to me, which is wonderful. And also joined by Ryan from the Chester County Food Bank, and I just want to open it up to see if you guys would like to share anything at this point. I will say a word or two about Fairview Village, but if you want to, you're welcome to.
Wendy, you want to join, or do you want me to say something? I assume you're driving, so I'll talk. Yeah, we're just happy to be in partnership with obviously with Trellis, and to be working and doing similar programs where we are centered around trying to provide healthy, sustainable ways for people to get their food. And what's great about your program is you're engaging with people inside of these communities to teach them about how to grow food, where the food comes from, and hopefully the food is coming from somewhere local and right around the corner, as in the case for our partnership with Fairview, and now hopefully with Regency, the new partnership. So if you are interested in our programming, we do, again, similar kind of stuff. I mean, we're a larger organization where we do multiple things with providing food. But in my department, we are trying to help people just learn how to grow their own food, educate them on where the food comes from, and how to be more sustainable in growing their food. So that's what we do here. Any questions? Or
I'll piggyback on that just to say that, again, we were so thrilled to enter into a partnership with the Chester County Food Bank last year. They established an absolutely gorgeous, glorious garden in Fairview Village in Phoenixville. And last year we entered into a partnership together to use that space for the youth programming that we were just describing. It was a very successful initial year, pilot year of that partnership, and we're going to be continuing that again in 2021. And as Ryan mentioned, we are taking some initial steps to also do this at the Regency Apartments in Coatesville, for which we are also extremely excited. If you happen to be watching this video, or if you're on the call tonight and you live in Fairview Village and you're interested in participating in that garden again, that is still very much an option and on the table. We will include contact information for the Chester County Food Bank, whether it's Ryan or Wendy, for finding out how you can get signed up for some of the beds. That garden is unique because it's not just a youth garden. It's also a garden where people can sign up for beds of their own, which is thrilling for us to kind of work side by side and in the same space with community members as these youth are expanding the garden and growing their own produce and sharing their knowledge, to have an opportunity to meet with someone else that knows a thing or two, to tell these young whippersnappers and to inform them some things that they did when they were growing up. That is the kind of powerful connection that really matters to us. At Trellis, we are really committed to working in partnership and in collaboration with the communities that we serve, but also incredible organizations like Chester County Food Bank, as well as Mosaic Land Trust and the Hill School and Hobart's Run, and all of the partners that we work with in the community. Those are really important to us. So if you're at Fairview Village, or if you're in Pottstown and you're interested in some of these gardens and getting involved, we will have all that contact information below in the description of the video. Just look down there. You can find more information for how to find out how to sign up for beds in those particular gardens. But at this point, I'm going to stop talking and just open the floor up for any questions or comments that anybody might have that is on the call.